Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Lace up those boots and sling on the pack for a romp through trails, short and long. With your host and Renaissance man, Doc. It's time to embrace the suck.
And welcome back. We are talking to Dave, also known as SlowFoot, old school thru-hiker. He's been regaling us with stories left and right during the first half of the episode. And what I really want to know at this point, Dave, I want to know where you grew up, what kinds of activities you involved in as a kid, and how did you find yourself joining the thru-hiking cult?
Well, I grew up just outside of Boston, Mass. You can hear the accent, right? My grandfather, my father's father, worked for the CCC and had a lot to do with the AT. He actually was one of the young men up here in Maine that finished the road on Spalding Mountain, the last section of the Appalachian Trail. That the Appalachian Trail at that time was a road walk that was cut by the young men for the CCC. He was one of them. He was 16 at the time. So him and about 20 others came up here from Massachusetts and all over New England and cut the last section of the Appalachian Trail. And I grew up with that all the time. And my uncles and my dad always into hiking and whatnot. But it was in high school in the late 80s that I read a book called Walk Across America. And it was a book about a gentleman down south who had walked. It was more of a kind of a spiritual journey of a gentleman who had walked. And that kind of paved the way for a lot of emotions. And being an inner city kid, you know, the lifestyle in those days is not like it is today. Trying to find my way in life. I mean, I was a bike messenger. I'm a cyclist. But cycling to me as an environment, I have a master's degree in forestry. But cycling is a way of environmental, but walking is more natural to humans. After all, we walk millions of miles around the world and look where we are today. So it's just a common thing that we walk. I always had this idea. I love walking and I wanted to, I needed this. So I actually went to an Alder gathering. I think it was a 93 or 94. I went to an Alder gathering up in Hanover, New Hampshire. And actually it was the first time I met Earl Schaefer. But actually I met a whole bunch of people. And I was just blown away by the thought of how people can walk somewhere. And it just stuck to me. It's very natural in nature to walk. It's like, why ride in a vehicle? I mean, I still don't drive. I still cycle everywhere and I'm in my 50s. So I don't even have a driver's license, believe it or not. The last time I think I got a permit in like 1990 and that was it. I never drove again. I love the idea of how the body is a machine and how it can walk, how you can walk. I don't like getting in someone's car. I have a hard time with it. So I love the idea of walking, and using the body as a machine. That's what we're made for. So I really thought the idea of doing a thru hike is just incredible. But it isn't that hard. And a lot of people think, oh, it's brutal, but it's a mentality thing. I really do think that if you have the mindset for it, it's open to anybody. You don't have to be a superhero to do a hike. I mean, we all walk. Even people who work in office buildings, they walk everywhere. So I really don't think it's that bad of a problem. I really don't think it's, this is a person who's a thru. What makes a thru hiker, because remember, I tell everybody, you're not really a thru hiker until you complete the thru. Before you complete, you're attempting a thru hike. Oh, you're a thru hiker. You're attempting a thru hike. When you finish the trail, that's when you're the thru hiker. You have to attempt a thru hike. People say, I did 1,200 miles. I'm a thru hiker. No, sorry, I'm a thru hiker. You have to complete the trail to be a thru hiker. You're attempting a thru hike. When you finish, then you can call yourself a thru hiker. But I do think that you don't have to be a superhero to do a thru hike. You have to have the mentality of not to give up. You have to stick forward and keep moving forward. The most important thing that you can do on a hike is to just keep walking. It isn't that bad. And that's what I loved. And when I was reading these books, I was like, this can't be that hard. you just got to deal with all the crazy weather and all the stuff that comes with it.
Now, you went to Paul Smith's College for forestry, and you got your master's at UNE. Was the trail always the plan? I'm sorry, what's that?
University of Vermont.
Oh, University of Vermont. Sorry about that. Got your master's from University of Vermont. Was the trail always the plan, or did the career come first and then pull you towards
hiking? I had already done thru-hiking before that.
Okay.
I had done Bay Circuit Trail a couple times with Alan French, who built that trail. I did, I believe I might be, well, he thru-hiked it, but might have been the first person outside of him to do it at that time. That is the longest amount. The Bay Circuit Trail in Massachusetts is the most amount, well, besides maybe Maine, it's the most extensive amount of mileage. It's about 250 miles from basically down by Scituate all the way around. It's called the Emerald Necklace. Goes around Boston, metropolitan Boston, goes up to Gloucester area, Plum Island. It goes completely around like a big C. It's about 250 miles or so. Alan French, who was from Andover, Mass., he had passed away. He had put that trail in. Actually, it goes further back. It was built around the 1920s. That's the second largest amount of mileage in all of New England for hiking. I had done that years ago when I was a teenager. I went northbound and I went southbound. And I loved it so much. I was like, oh, this is great. Let's do it. I've done every single trail available that it's around. That some of them are actually not even around anymore. That's in New England. I've done probably close to 8,000 miles of hiking trails in New England. Some of the trails exist, some don't actually anymore. Some are just falling apart over time. And I actually, when I worked for AMC at the time, I was hoping and trying to get some of them to keep going, but they have fallen to the wayside. I actually was very, very close to Patrick Fletcher, who is the founder, the president of the Metaconic Monadnock Trail, who had passed on recently. He is the founder behind the New England Trail, and unbelievable. He really put his heart and soul into that trail. He was an Upper Goose Pond caretaker like myself. He actually he forced me to jump onto the Upper Goose Pond caretaker, which I was there for 20 years. But he really dedicated. He said, "You got to come out here. I need somebody out here. They don't know these people don't know what the hell they're doing. I need somebody out here." Now, so I had joined him. And
SlowFoot, what does the head caretaker at Upper Goose Pond Cabin actually do?
Today or then?
Well, let's talk about then. What were your responsibilities out there?
I maintaining the cabin, keeping it clean. Making pancakes in the morning for the hikers. Making sure that, getting water at the spring, taking care of all the trails around there. The Upper Goose Pond is owned by the National Park Service, just like the Appalachian Trail. And some of the Forest Service guys actually help, who are there. AMC is actually the coordinator of the steward that made the stewardship of Upper Goose Pond. They're the ones that take care of the volunteers. The early days, it didn't have volunteers. It was paid staff. And then eventually it went into volunteering. Some guys in the Forest Service were getting paid, and then others were getting volunteering. You can do half and half, but maintaining it, making sure it's clean, welcoming the hikers in, teaching them about the landscape. The cabin was built by American chestnut, and that area was all American chestnut when the cabin was built. It was built by the Stillwater family, who owned a lot of land out in the Bridges. I think learning the history and learning the landscape and teaching people and talking to people about it is a really good thing. I think, don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound rude or anything like that. A lot of people today don't ask questions about the trail or really the environmental part of it, or really any of that. You don't hear too many people asking the question, but I'm really big in history and I'm really big with environmental studies. And I do think that today the Appalachian Trail is mostly protected. But when I thru-hiked it years ago, it was really not much of it, wasn't. It was still going through private property, and a lot of the trails wasn't part. It's Battleback Mountain was going to be developed completely. I was a big deal up here. So there's a lot of that environmental studies and protection of land and all that stuff was a big importance in those days.
That's a good point. Now you come from a family.
Hold on.
Sure.
Can you cut it for 1 second?
Yeah.
Sorry, Doc. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So, SlowFoot, you come from a family of trail builders. You talked about your dad building trail out there. You built trail.
My
grandfather. You've worked for Green Mountain Club, AMC, Forest Service,
Appalachian.
You have
ATC, AMC, United States Forest Service, Green Mountain Club.
All of those. And you helped build the AT. What do you, I mean, a lot of hikers, I feel these days, as you were just describing, they walk the trail with not fully understanding what goes into building the trail. What do you wish more hikers knew about what goes into building the trail?
I think what goes, the people on top is the National Park Service. They're the ones on top. Then below them, it's a big umbrella of organizations who kind of work on the trail. It's not ATC. Everybody thinks it's ATC. ATCM is in the middle. ATC is the middle ground. Above is you have, Bureau of Land Management, you have United States Forest Service, and you have National Park. National Park is pretty much the tip of the pyramid of organizations. It's the National Scenic Trail is run by the National Park Service. Forest Service that's USDA. That's their part. Both Forest Service and National Park Service both do trail work. We get paid to build the trail. We also get paid to do search and rescue, and there's other studies, environmental studies. All these things are extremely important to keep this trail protected. If it's not protected, God forbid, they're going to build a hotel on it. I mean, and that's the truth. And people today don't see that because it's not around. Years ago, it was common. You'd walk along a trail and all of a sudden it's just opened up. They just clear cut right through it. And it's here, it's out, anything that's national scenic. The Lawn Trail, even though it's not national, the 100-mile section of it, or 150 miles from the Mass line out to Hanover, that 150 miles is protected because it's inside the federal corridor. But the 172 miles that goes up is protected because it's in the Green Mountain National Forest. But there are parts of it that are not protected, that are in conservation lands or private property, and that gets moved. The federal trail does get moved from time to time. There's a lot of reasons why that gets moved. I don't think that hikers understand that. A lot of hikers today are like, it doesn't mean anything to me, all right? Well, it should, because if you don't protect it and you don't save it, it's not going to be here for generations, And some people are like, well, I don't have kids. Well, you might want to come back in 10 years and hike it. It might not be here. And in 30-something years, I've seen trails that were around 30 years ago in my 20s that I loved that don't exist anymore because, organizations were like, well, we don't have the manpower. We don't have the people to maintain it, and you know what? If you know how the AT was built, a lot of people today would go crazy for that. They'd be like, that's insane. You can't do that to me. It's mostly like eminent domain stuff. And that today's world, that's not normal. But in those days, that's how it was protected. The National Scenic Trail System in '68, Johnson signed that. That basically stopped completely everything from protection on the trail. All these organizations, the ATC are the ones that set out for, they have the paid ridge runners, but they also have volunteer parties going out. They work with all these other organizations, Land Bureau, even when there's a problem, you have to have federal agents out there looking for somebody or other organizations, search and rescue parties. Everybody works together in this pyramid. I do think that protection and knowledge and history and skill, all this has to be still said today. People are like, well, you don't need it. Yes, it needs to be said. Because if people who have kids and they want to bring their kids on the trail, if you don't learn this stuff, it's not going to be here. And I've seen it myself. So, I think it's an important thing. I really do think that kind of, even put all that stuff around it. I do wish hikers today, younger generation of hikers, would be more environmental conscious about their surrounding areas, like their trash. There's so much trash on the trail today. There's like all these wrappers. They're everywhere. You find them all over the place, the whole thing with leave no trace. It doesn't have to be strict, but if you got your shit, pack it the hell out, you know? I mean, people don't like having fires, but if you don't want to pack it out, burn the shit. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. It's really bad. I've seen pictures of people in Pennsylvania. There's like trash in shelters. It's disgusting. You're going to get rodents. And their shelters are infested with rodents. You know, it's a vicious cycle. But with more and more people out in nature comes more and more problems. And everybody who hikes has to have something to take from it, but you also have to put into it. You know, it's everybody's responsibility, not just one person. Everybody has to have their responsibility to do something to give back to the trail system, regardless if it's the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail. Everybody's responsibility to help the trail in some way. You know, it's our future.
Yep,
we definitely need it.
Absolutely
it's important.
Now we touched upon kind of the technology and the information that is available out there now to thru hikers. Some of the skills that used to be baseline back in the day are almost non-existent now in hikers. I mean, what do you wish every hiker heading out today actually knew? What is a foundational skill?
Use a goddamn compass. There's so many people getting lost. And they're freaking out. They're using Garmin devices, pushing 911 all the time. Like, just pick up a map, for God's sake, and look where you are. You know what I mean? And if you get lost, don't panic. You know, you live in a world that there's roads everywhere. Just walk on one and find your way out. You know, the old Boy Scout saying was, follow the river out to if you follow the river, it's going to lead somewhere. And the White Mountain, most of these land, we live in an area where there's millions of people all around us. You get up on a hilltop and you look out and you see city lights. It's not like you're out in no man's land, Alaska, Bath Island or something. You know what I mean? Like, people panic as soon as they step off the trail. You can't panic. You have to stay calm. People should learn how to use a compass, or at least everybody relies on the common technology. But really, I don't think the common technology should be out in nature as much as it is. I mean, I come from a period that the reason why people went out into nature in the first place was to get the hell away from the technology, right? I mean, I didn't even want to bring a camera, never mind, you know. So, I mean, in one way, we brought compasses because in those days the trail wasn't blazed like it is today. And then you can go sections, it's like a blaze every 5 feet. I've been in sections where it would blaze one every 3 miles. Even there's a section in Vermont where the trail actually splits and there's 2 blazes on 2 trees. And you're like, which one do I take? And it goes back around to the same spot. So it's kind of freaky. And I think they play games with people like that. But, you know, I do think that people should learn how to read a map, because if the cell service doesn't work, up here in Maine, we have sparse technology. The maps are, if you know how to read a map, I'm not saying be a genius on a map. I'm saying learn how to read a map and learn how to use a compass, because a compass, you can never go wrong. We've been using compasses for thousands of years. Learning just the natural resources around you. You know, I mean, the old school saying about red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. I mean, you know, red sky at night, sailors delight. It's kind of it's almost accurate. You know, if you watch them in the morning, you watch the sun come up and it's pure red. You know, later on in the day, you're going to get soaking wet. I think people are not in tune today as much as they were years ago with nature. I think we go to nature to get away from society, to find ourselves. I mean, after all, millions of years ago, people came from nature, and a lot of people for millions of years lived in nature. People go into the forest to get away from society, of all the crazy stuff that we have today, all kinds of stuff. Why are we bringing this crazy technology with us? If one thing we should do is leave it the hell at home. People are like, well, how am I supposed to get in touch with someone? Don't worry about it. I mean, if it's not going to kill you, you know what I mean? Like, people say to me all the time, people are impressed. They're like, how can you thru-hike the Appalachian Trail or any trail without cell phone technology? We didn't have it. It was, I mean, what are you going to do? It didn't exist. The biggest thing was just make sure that Mother's Day, you in town to use the payphone. That was the biggest thing. That's all you had to do. Or Father's Day, to get in town. We didn't care if you had to walk 60 miles. You had to get to that payphone. You'd be the first one at that payphone to call Mom on Mother's Day. You didn't care about anything else. That was the most important thing for technology in those days. Call your mother on Mother's Day. But it's the truth.
Great point. Now, SlowFoot, your last thru hike, was 2013. Which trail was that?
It was a long trail.
Long trail. Now, the long trail in 2013, at that point, did you know this was going to be your last through hike? And or what happened?
I wanted to go, believe it or not, I wanted to go three more times. I wanted to go for like round 10. I wanted to do another winter through hike. I wanted to do 4 winter through hikes. Actually 4 or 5 winter through hikes and 3 more summertime through hikes. But 2013 was quite a change for me. I think I was disappointed by a lot of things in life. I was older, I was almost 40. My body is not in the shape that it was when I was in my 20s. I got a lot of issues with health problems, and I need hip replacements and things like that. And I was hurt, and I got a bad back, and there's a lot going on. And society on the trail wasn't like it was 30 years early, 25 years before. And, years ago, if someone's coming at you, you start talking and talked about the day, and people would sit down. Hey, I was doing this. Very quiet, talked about the day, laughing. Nobody was interested. People were just blowing by me. I'm like, okay. It happened so much every day that was like, this is getting horrible. Like, what's the rush? Why is everybody running everywhere? It's like, is there a fire that I need to know about? And I met one older timer that I actually met prior. Actually, there was one guy who was heading south. I was going north. We actually stayed in the same shelter for 2 days and talked completely for 2 days. I actually met him back in 98 when I was on the lawn trail. And we were talking about it, 2 days at the shelter talking. He's like, this is the best part. He's like, this so far this year was the best part. I was on his 4th through hike. He's like, this is the best part seeing you. And I felt the same way. I was like, man, excuse my friend, this trail sucks this year. It's really sucks. I'm done with it. As soon as I'm finished at JP, I'm going home. I'm giving it up. But yeah, it was a completely different thing. Cell phone technology. And, I had got to a camp that I used to love, and there was a guy standing on the roof of the shelter screaming at his wife on the cell phone. And I was like, dude, do me a favor. Go to town and fight with your wife. I don't want to hear it here. You know what I mean? Like, this is a beautiful shelter. You're ruining the atmosphere right off the bat. I just lost it. I was like, I was ready. I was like, I can't wait to go home for this trip. But
do you miss
that?
It?
Was it. After that.
Do you miss it? Do you miss the old days?
I miss the old days. I miss I miss the old days, and I miss the people. And sadly enough, I get choked up because every time I go looking for people, I find out they're deceased or something. They're no longer here with us, and it's very, very depressing for me. And I know a handful of people who I still am in touch with, but not like, the ones that you want to be in touch with that were very close to you are gone. 30 years ago, a lot of people, 30 years ago isn't a long time ago. But when someone's 50 years old, they're 80 years old now. So, and there were some guys in those days that were in their 60s and 70s that they're long gone. So, you have that, you're a young kid and you're looking up to these guys, and they're no longer here. And they were crazy then. So wherever they are in the universe, they're driving someone crazy right now. But I miss that whole, I miss that night. We didn't have headlamps like today. You had the old-fashioned Petzl headlamps that had candle watt lights. So no one really used those things that much. Or a lot of people used to use the old-fashioned mag lights. Like, they're a good size. They're like the size of a hot dog, and they have those they duct tape them to their hats. And that's what was light at night. But they didn't run on, the old Petzl headlamps didn't run very well. So you'd really only have, a few hours of light. So I used to carry an old-fashioned tea candles with me, and I'd write in my journal at night. And one thing that I miss is sitting around the campfire talking to everybody about the day. People be talking about it. It'd be people doing crazy shit too. I mean, like fucking, you name it, they're doing crazy shit. But that's okay. It's fine. It makes a laugh, and everybody's laughing, carrying on. The old school days of just like it was as a teenager. Now you're an adult and they're still doing the crazy stuff. I find that that's not the case anymore. At night, it was nice sitting around and everybody's cooking together, making really nice food. What do you make? I'm making mashed potatoes. I'm using this stick. I'm smashing the shit out of the potatoes with that. Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, I went fishing. Look at this. I'm going to eat a sunfish. You're crazy. Right off the bat, like, who the hell eats a sunfish? I'm starving. I'm dying for something. I'm going to have don't eat that raw. You're out of your mind. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy shit. You're eating a sunfish. It's nuts. You know, or we had crazy people like had wrist rockets with them. They're getting rabbits, and they're having rabbits and Chantels and stuff that they find in the woods, and they're having like a 5-star meal at a shelter. It's pretty funny. You know, a sauteed rabbit. I'm like, what is this? Like Mount Washington Hotel going on up here or what? You know, what is this stuff?
The good
Living
old
it
days.
up. Yeah, you don't have that anymore. Those days are gone.
Yeah. SlowFoot, you know where we are right now?
We're almost done.
Hiking hacks.
That's right. It's time for your hiking hack, where you get to share some advice to make our listeners' adventures even better out there. This segment is proudly brought to you by Otter. That's Off the Trail Recreation, your go-to for durable, high-quality outdoor gear. All right, SlowFoot, your turn here to kind of share some advice, share some wisdom with our listeners. What do you have for us?
Wisdom about, you mean hiking, through hiking, or just whatever?
Yeah, how about, like a pro tip for hiking.
I think for through hiking or just hiking in general, don't take it too serious in the beginning. Just take it slow. There's no rush. The more time you spend out in nature, the more time you get to know yourself, and the more time you understand what's around you. You know, every time there's a problem, you don't have to run to town. You know, I too many people go to town too much, and then they're like, I just blew $10,000. That's crazy. I think that people need to be more resourceful with themselves, to know themselves, push themselves, but don't kill yourself. There's too much of who wants to finish the first. How about who wants to finish the last? That's probably a better.
That's right.
Stay out as long.
You just stole my thunder. I was going to say, if you have a fastest known time and a slowest known time, guess which one's the winner? The winner is the slowest known time because they spent the most time out there.
Yeah, I mean, 293 days was one year, 273 was another, and then almost 350. Actually, more than almost 370 days in total, if you want to count January 1st to. I actually left Key West, Florida. Came home in November. I had reached Caspe on November 27th. I came home right around Thanksgiving, a little after Thanksgiving. 2 weeks later, I set out to do a winter through hike on the lawn trail, but I was out for 2 months on the lawn trail because of the weather conditions. So I was actually out, and then my boss says, no more through hiking. You got to go back to work. You can't be doing this shit for months. But I did another winter through hike again. And you know what? People ask why I do a winter through hike. There's nobody on the trail. You don't have to worry about things. There was a gentleman actually this year who did he had done a winter southbound on the AT. It may sound crazy. You talk to yourself. Smart people talk to themselves, man. You learn real quick. You have to talk to yourself. Which way am I going? Wait a minute. Don't go that way. This way. Nope. That's the part of it. And you talk to yourself and you fight. As long as the other self doesn't win and you're into beating the hell of that other person, then you're all set. But I do think that the mentality of hiking, being out in nature and learning on who you are and putting yourself in, every time it rains, you don't have to go to town. Every time there's a problem, everybody goes to town. You don't need to go to town. People I'm taking a zero, I'm going into town. No, take the zero in the woods. You know, put up a line, wash your clothes in your pot, and hang them on the line. Sit by the stream, go through the stream, look at the rocks, look at nature, look how things have changed. Look at yourself as a being, as a person. People ask me, why would you do 25 through hikes? What the hell is wrong with you? Well, I like being out in nature. I feel more at peace in nature than when I go to town, I get stressed out. You know, people are like, oh, I can't wait to go to town. Keep that town there, man. I don't even want to go to town. I go to town, I get my mail drop, and I'm getting the hell out. I go in for the day, get my mail, I'm going back to the woods. It's too much. I don't need to blow 10. People tell me they blow 10 grand on a through hike. I'm like, that's insane. The most I ever spent on a long distance hike from Key West, Florida, the Caspe Peninsula was $2,200, and that's like almost 6,000 miles. They're like, well, what did you spend money on? I mean, not that I'm walking all day. I don't need to spend money on anything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm buying, the most expensive thing I might have bought was like a bunch of bananas, and I shoved them in my pack or something. But I mean, you don't need to spend money. You're on the trail. It's not like you're going to casinos, for God's sake. Like someone's like, I just blew $300 on a hostel. I'm like, you got screwed. you can sleep in a tent for free. You bought the tent, go sleep in the woods. I mean, it's kind of crazy to me. I don't understand it. People like, I'm going up to do a thru hike, but yet they're hanging around in towns all the time. I'm like, that's not thru hiking. That's like city hopping, you know? I mean, I'd be laughing about it. It's the truth. People always ask me, they're like, so, you know, how much money would it take to do a thru hike? I'm like, you know, today's world, people, we make gear for a living, but if you don't have the money to buy the high-tech gear, it's not the gear that's going to make or break the thru hike. People think it's going to be the gear. Actually not. It really isn't the gear. It's what's inside the head that's going to make it. People think, oh, I don't have $10,000 to buy all this gear. It has nothing to do with the gear. The gear is not going to make or break the hike, because they're like, oh, well, if I go to a Salvation Army or something, I buy secondhand, it's not going to make it. I'm like, so what are you telling me, that my thru hike doesn't exist? I carried 50 pounds of gear and I made it all the way. So it's kind of a slap in the face. Or they'll say, I can't walk 20 miles a day. I never walked 20 miles a day. I used to average 8 to 10 miles a day. That was it. You know, it was more about being out in nature. I didn't care. People were like, oh, how many? And in those days, people were probably doing 14, 15 miles. But I mean, most of the guys I hung around were doing, 14-mile days. I've done a few of those, but people are like, oh, I got to do 20. Someone's doing 20. I'm like, did you come out here with them, or did you come out here by yourself? And they're like, well, I came out here by myself. Then why are you killing yourself with those people? They're like, well, those are my family. I said, well, if they're going to drive you into the ground. And now I don't mean this in a bad way. I grew up with my grandfather telling me, he was in the war. He used to say to me, if you see somebody jumping off the bridge, are you going to jump off the bridge, or are you going to walk by him and say, fuck him, let him jump? I am not follow the leader. I am the leader. I'm going to lead my way from Springer Mountain to Katahdin. People want to jump off the fucking bridge, they can jump off the bridge. I'm going to Katahdin. That's the way I see it. And sadly enough, a lot of people today, I meet people on the trail and they're like, I'm going home. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because my trail family is left. I'm like, but did you start with them? And they're like, no. Then why are you going home? You're out here for yourself. The only reason why you're out here is your mentality, not somebody else's. And that's a big problem. A lot of people could make it, but a lot of people rely on everybody else. When you're only out here for yourself, really, you're out there to get away from that stuff. And people get lost in this whole bustle of like, oh, I got to be around everybody. Just recently, people like, oh, I'm in town. I'm going to buy this person something. I'm going to buy. Why are you buying everybody everything? You know what I mean? You're running out of money.